then open it up for anybody else that would like to come up. Oh, come on, Stefan. Stefan and Yuri, good. Nice to see you, by the way.
Yeah, you too.
Hey, my name's Stefan. I remember when Nick came in, and yeah, Art just kind of hit it right on the nose what I was going to talk about. I came in to recovery with a pretty hard shell, as Art and Amy might remember. And I remember from the first time Nick came in, he would always touch me, man, and that bothered me so much. That would bother me so much. I talked to a sponsor, my friends about it. But he kept doing it, and he would corner me, and he kept doing it. And, you know, by the end, you know, I'd sit there and hold his hand, you know, while we watched the movie. And, you know, in retrospect, what I didn't realize that Nick did for me is he helped open me up, you know. He helped open me up. So those doors that I had closed inside, my addiction and the lack of trust, he helped open me back up, where I can hug a stranger today, you know, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Yuri. Yeah, so when I think of Nick, I think of how a lot of people want a friend, but they don't really want to be a friend. And I think that all that Nick really wanted is to just be somebody's friend, be a friend to somebody else. He didn't even ask for much in return other than that. And when I think of mine and Nick's relationship, especially now, I wish that I would have been more patient with him and more compassionate towards him and nicer to him. Because I too did not like to be touched. You know, I've had really long conversations with him about like the 3 foot. I lived with him a couple of times, one time for about almost a year, I think, and so we moved into this house, and this house was in kind of rough shape, and so everybody that was living there, and I took chores really seriously over at the big house. So I tried to encourage everybody at this house to clean this house up because, you know, wanted to get everybody excited about living in a clean house. And Nick was by far the hardest nut that I had to crack. Because I was like, how do you get somebody excited about cleaning, you know? And I did it though. I figured it out. And I remember, like, when I think of Nick, I remember he helped me clean the kitchen. And he was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. And I was like, watch, I'll walk you through the whole thing. And all he needed was just a little guidance. And then I went, dude, stand back and look at how good of a job you did. And he had this big smile on his face. And I was just like, that's so cool. And it didn't start out like that. The first interaction I had with him was like, make coffee. And he was like, I don't know how to make coffee. I was like, what do you mean you don't know how to make coffee? You know, so I wasn't nice to him at first. And then he helped me be more understanding of other people and nicer to other people, because I actually asked him, I go, has anybody ever shown you how to make coffee? He said, no. I said, all right, let me show you how to make coffee. And he was so excited. You know, and I think a lot of people are missing that piece in life, to be excited about doing a good job with just a simple task. And yeah, he was definitely a very sweet guy, and I too think that he was smarter than, okay? Yeah. Because he'd be like, oh, you know, I don't know how to do that. But then I'd be like, my iPhone's not working. He'd be like, and then he's like, yeah. Anyways, Love that guy. Thank you.
Come on up, Dan. Dan and then Corbin. Oh, yeah, let's bring up Dan and then Corbin. I knew Dan was chomping at the bit. He needs to talk about me. Nice to see you, by the way, Dan. You're looking good.
Nick. He gets in the chair. Just there you go. Alright, so Nick. So I met Nick right off the bat. And it seemed like he had this thing about him before he started coming around, that he felt like he had to con. You know, he felt like he had to kind of bullshit his way through. Maybe it was his anxiety that had him wanting him to feel comfort. You know what I mean? And it's all like being close to people and being friendly, being compassionate, and that kid was special. I know that. As far from I don't know about the IQ thing, but I know the kid was not stupid by any means. The kid was pretty smart, and what you just said about Nick teaching him that he should be more compassionate. I stopped talking to Nick a while ago because it just seemed like he was just lazy. He just didn't want to do shit. And it was like, I'm way more ambitious than that. Like, I got shit to do. If you're not gonna do it with me, then we can't do it with you. Just like with everybody, he'd look you dead in your eye and be like, "You're my best friend." You know that you're my best friend. I love you, Dan. You're my best friend. And I know he said that to several people, and and this the way he'd look up to people, the way he'd idolize people, and really make people feel some kind of significance. You know what I mean? Like, all right, they say in the meetings, you're never alone, blah 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 blah. Well, he really you're not alone. For sure. Come barging in your room. Right after I heard the news, I was thinking, I could just imagine some smart ass shit coming out of his mouth. Like, why are you crying, dog? I love you. Like, you're my best friend. And just a bundle of joy, man. And the great ones go too soon.
It's all right. It's all right.
Still good?
Yeah. All right. I had the opportunity to meet Nick on his first day in Big Change, be his manager, be his roommate, a whole bunch of different things. But I like to have people touched on that he was a lot smarter than he let on. And he was. There are so many things that he would try to get out of, and I used to love when, if he needed to go buy cigarettes, he could jump right out of bed and be right in his car. But if I needed him to do anything or anything, he'd be like, "Oh, I already took my meds." The doctor said I can't drive on my meds. And then on the side of the meds, for like the last 4 months or so, I had the pleasure of handing out Nick's meds every day. And I never forgot one time, yet he would remind me about 25 times a day. So it's just funny, some of the stuff that, we get annoyed about, or sometimes we lose patience. And this kind of is a good lesson for all of us. Nick was like a puppy dog. Like when I'd come home, I've never had anybody that was so happy to see me. He would hear me open my door and he would run upstairs, and we'd talk about things that we probably can't talk about here. But me and Nick, we talked in a certain way, and some of our text messages. I remember one time me and Dave Zumwalt were sitting on the couch, and Nick was texting me that I was the greatest of all time, but he was texting Dave that he was the greatest of all time. And so I sent him a screenshot of Dave saying that to me and back and forth, and then he didn't know what to say after that. And so we settled on Tom Brady was the greatest of all time. I do remember when he came back to Big Change probably 7 months ago. He called me and he said, I really need to come back to the house and everything. And he says, I only have one thing. He says, I got a ticket to Lil Wayne and I'm going to go whether you guys let me or not. And, he would always talk about, he knew every lyric to every song. I'd always act interested, but, some of the stuff, it could have been, I remember this one time he rapped a whole song on I was talking to my mom on Mother's Day, and he rapped a whole song to her on FaceTime. And my mom was like, that guy all right? Yeah, that's Nick Salzetti. But I remember he used to, there's a few things you'll never forget. There's no one that ever smoked a cigarette like he smoked it.
The joy.
He would lay back and he'd go cross-eyed and look at the tip of the cigarette. And just and then I remember, I got a million stories. But when I first lived at the big house, he was like the only person that had a car. And so I asked him one time to go help me cash my paycheck. And we, I bought him a breakfast burrito from a gas station. And at least once a week for the next 3 years, he reminded me how good that breakfast burrito was. And there's just a lot of funny stuff. But I learned a lot from Nick as far as compassion goes, and I'll never forget the guy. I probably have a lot more to say too, but definitely won't be forgotten. And as we go on, when we all sit back and talk about the stories that have happened over the years, we'll definitely have a lot of good stories about Nick. So, thank you. What did Nick eat for breakfast?
What did Nick eat for breakfast?
Well, he always got his milk in, that's for sure. But it'd usually be probably about 40 Oreos. And he would switch off between different kinds of Doritos. And
How many calories before he took his medicine?
oh my God! So he had the doctors. He had this one med that he had to like 250 calories with. Oh man! And at the big house, after dinner, you had a little snack. Well, he would, the doctor said, man, I need to hit my calories, and I always remember him telling me, he's like, man, stupid managers that don't make $3 an hour trying to tell me how to manage my life. And the rest of the stuff I can't censor, so we'll leave that to stories of my friends.
So I wore this shirt tonight, Big Change. It really was an idea, and I think that all of us, and I think Rich and Jim would appreciate it. There was a lesson that came out of it, so I want to kind of give somewhat of a lesson, a little just a thing. I want to say that all of the kids that are going through this and what you guys are going through, it's unprecedented. So really, you guys are in this opioid epidemic and this drug epidemic that's happening in our country. It's never happened before, and it's really unprecedented. And we don't know we don't really know how it ends, and we don't know what's going on, and we don't know where it leads. And one thing that I think that we need to really do, and I think that one of the things that was a problem for Nick was that he didn't think that he would make it, and he didn't think he was important unless he had his own place. This was very important to him. He was driven by this. And I think that, you know, every time something like this happens, I think that one thing that we do is all of these deaths that seem to be happening, I always get the same thing in my head where I think to myself, God, we treat these like speeding tickets. And it's just what we do. It's like a speeding ticket. We all slow down for a minute. You know, whenever I get a speeding ticket, I'm a very bad driver, so I'm the worst at this, you know. I get the speeding ticket and I slow down until I get home that night. And then by the next day, I'm back speeding again. I don't really ever learn the lesson from the speeding ticket. My record would show. So what I'm saying is that every time this happens, is there a way that we can make this not like a speeding ticket? Make it something that actually makes a difference. I know that, you know, we've had some deaths that have made a big difference, and it's changed the way we've done what we've done. A lot of our family program is spawned off the fact that, you know, we needed to make a difference with the family so we could get more accountability. And I think that sober living is going to be the future. And I think that we need to celebrate it in all its forms. And I'm not saying that kids need to live in our sober living. I'm saying we need new forms of it. We need kids to think that it's really cool to move in with 5 sober people and maybe all have their own bedroom and rent a house together and hold each other accountable. And I think we really need accountability. And I think Nick needed accountability, but he was driven by the fact that he wasn't important unless he lived in his own place. But he needed that accountability. And I think we need to be reminded that as young people in our 20s going through this drug epidemic, you need accountability. And it's this old thing that says that people get sober for themselves, and I argue against that all the time. I would say if people were alone, they'd never get sober. Nobody wants to get sober by themselves. People only get sober because they want to be around other sober people or they want to please their family. That's why people get sober. They do it for their family. And when you take away that piece of accountability and there's nobody to do it for and you're alone, can some people sustain it and some people can't? And I think that we really need to celebrate sober living and normalize it and say, you know what? It's okay to live with sober people for 5 years. You know, I have Shelly and Amy and usually another person living at my house. I have that kind of accountability. My sobriety is due to accountability. I'm accountable to the people around me. And I think more accountability is the answer, not less. And I think what happens when people become less accountable to the group of people they're around is exactly what could happen to somebody like Nick. And I think that we really need to say, you know, we don't know, but it could be completely normal that somebody moves into sober living when they're 25 or 24 years old and they live there for 4 or 5 years. That could be normal. And I think we really got to take a look at that. And I think out of this, I hope that we take away that this isn't, you know, and then really, all of you, everybody says Nick's my best friend, and that's true, and we have a lot of best friends, but we have to hold ourselves accountable for the fact that we didn't hold him accountable. We got to start taking a look at that. You know, how many of us in this room knew that Nick probably wouldn't make it in his own place? And then what can we do about that? Is there something we could have done to convince Nick that he just needed to stay here? Or what can we do about that? And I think all of us need to hold each other accountable. And we need to say, when we see a train going off the tracks, we need to let that person know, hey man, we need you to stay here. You gotta stay. You can't go. You're not gonna make it on your own. And I think all you kids that are going through this, you're gonna have to really get some strength and really call out your friends. It's gonna be, you know, going on in this thing. You're gonna have to call out the people around you. You're gonna have to tell, hey man, you're not doing too good. I need to tell everybody. No, I'm not gonna keep your secret. I'm gonna really put it out there that you're not doing too good. We're gonna see if we can get a light on this. And I think we're missing that component. So I really think that we need to learn from this a couple of things. One, it's not a speeding ticket. And, you know, we can make a difference with our words. We can make a difference in other people's lives if we take a different action. You know, when you're living at the military house and you have a manager, you're accountable to that manager. You know, just so you guys know, on the same day that Nick died, we almost lost another person. The difference between Nick and the other person we lost, the other person happened to OD where there was accountability. And Corby went into the room and checked on him, and he was ODing. At the same time that we lost Nick, this was going on at the same time, and we happened to find George at the right time. And Corby was able to give him Narcan and bring him back to life, do CPR. Now this happened at the same time Nick was losing his life. So the difference between these two individuals is accountability. And we really have to step up our game with accountability and not make it a stigma. Everybody says we need to get rid of the stigma. There's no stigma on heroin use, not really anymore. Everybody's pretty comfortable with it. But there is a stigma on sober living, and parents and everybody is trying to say, you need to get a job and you need to get out of there. And no, they don't. They need to be there. They need to be around people that hold them accountable. And I think that we really got to take a look at that and use Nick and use this thing and make a difference. And say, sober living is cool. It's cool to live in a house with 5 other people that are staying sober. It's cool because when one person falls off, 4 people notice. And when 4 people notice, we can save their life. And I think it's very important that you guys find all different forms of sober living. I'm not saying that because I want you to live with me. I want you to move out with 5 people that you met in sobriety and make your own sober living. And I want people to do this in all different forms. So I really think that, if we're friends with people, to be a friend to somebody means to hold them accountable. That's what it means. It means to call them out. It means to say, hey, look, man, I'm your friend, and I got to tell you the truth. You're not going to make it like that. That's not going to work, and I got to tell you because I'm your friend. It's not letting our friends go with the lack of accountability. It's really pointing out. I think we could have really made a difference if we say that to people. So going forward, that's what I hope we get to take from this, is that accountability is key. It is key to live an accountable life, and it's key to have people to be accountable to. And when that component goes away, things aren't the same. So it's a very eye-opening thing for me that, I've even had the urgency when somebody's living that calling success when they get their own apartment to call that success. We need to change the definition of success. I say all the time, I said, I'm so damn proud of these kids because in my 20s I got 0 clean days, not 1. I didn't have 1. And a lot of the kids that come to our program, they get high 1 or 2 days, they relapse every now and then, but they got like a 95% clean time. And that is a good thing to have. It's a lot better to be clean 95% of the time than no days like I was throughout my 20s. So if you're in your 20s or early 30s, you're way ahead of us. Me and Amy were in our 40s before we even, the idea came up to even get clean. So I want you guys to really honor this thing, and I hope that we can really take from this accountability and say it's okay to have the humility to live in an accountable world. It's okay to have that kind of humility and say, hey, wait, I still need this. I know everybody in my life thinks it's going to be cooler if I have my own place and that that's somehow success, but not for me. I need this. I need to be accountable and around sober people, and I think we need to really take a look at that. So, anyways, that's my rant. I usually do a rant like that every night. So, but anybody else would like to come up, what we're going to do is anybody else would like to come up and share something, we will. And then after that, let's just turn it into a little mixer where we get some cookies and coffee and everybody just kind of hang out and talk. And we'll put some music on or whatever. So, anybody like to come up? Everybody set it off. Good. Brandy, you coming up?
Yeah.
All right.
So Nick Salzetti, right? Like when I first met Nick, I just come off the street. He was my roommate at Big House. I was struggling. My leg was in bad shape, and I was on top bunk and Nick was below me. And Nick was first question out of his mouth. Gonna be able to get up from the top floor? How do you do that? Like, how are you gonna get up there? Gonna climb up steps like anybody else? And when he sleeps, he's literally like a grizzly bear, right? Just like, just like, whoa! Wake up in the middle of the night and roll over and like, come on, Nick, like, we're trying to sleep. Just, yeah. But he had the biggest heart, right? Like everybody's talked about tonight, like he's genuine, right? Like a genuine good person. And like no matter, how frustrating he got, like, can I use your vape, dude? Can I use your vape? Like every 30 seconds. Yeah, you get my vape. just once, right? Like, can I vape? And then like just grab it. But like true love for that man, you know, like I'm sure he's looking down on us. Like I love all of you guys, and like Corey was talking about, like you're the best of all time. Like everybody had that conversation with him, right? Like it wasn't just one of us. And that shows what kind of a person he was, you know, like, and that's a good feeling, right? Like you guys raised a good kid.
Yeah, very good. Wow, I mean, really, thank you all for coming out. I think it was is Rich, would you like to come up and close with anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll close with just a tribute to Battlefield and the big house and big change and everything. And I don't know, maybe nobody's looking at this as a failure, and they should not look at Nick and what we did over the last 2.5 years as a failure. I certainly don't. He passed away Friday, most likely of an overdose. There was heroin on his nightstand, so we don't know for sure, but you know, he was there, he was at his apartment, and it looked like it was going to work out, and it just did not for whatever reason. I think maybe he thought he could handle everything, and he couldn't. And maybe that's a lesson for a bunch of people in here. I don't know, but I don't want us to look at Nick as, you know, we just lost another one, because he lived 2.5 really good, based on what I can see here. You know, he didn't always tell me what was going on over here, but I would kind of see it when I'd go pick him up from the big house and go do whatever, or Auburn, or wherever. I could kind of see that he was doing okay, but he did want to be independent, and I don't think he could handle it, and we kind of knew he couldn't handle it, and we did it anyway, and here we are. So I kind of second what Art, if we could put Nick in a group setting and he could have lived there, I think I know he'd still be alive today, but I think he would thrive in that environment. But the problem is that, you know, what are they going to live there till they're 40 or 50? I don't know, you know.
Maybe.
So, but I just want to thank everybody for this, and I mean, it's making us laugh, and trust me, we need a laugh. I mean, you know, it's been the last 6, 7, 8 years, it's been rough, but the last 2.5 have been the answer. I mean, this place is the answer. And I've told a bunch of people that. I think there's a few people here because of what I've said about this place. And I totally believe it. It's the answer. The big house is the answer. The off-site satellite houses, that's the answer. We just need more of those, and then we need to keep the kids in the program longer. And some kind of support. We blew it. I mean, I kind of blew it with this. It happened so fast. I have it on my phone. Nick, when you're ready, we need to have this conversation about what you're going to do, and we're going to come to a meeting at least one a month. We're going to come here. You're going to go to the big house. You know, you're going to do all this stuff, and we just didn't get it, and it just happened so fast. And then now he's just gone. So, but this is a family. This whole thing is a family, and so anybody that's new here, just stick it out. Put your kid in this program. It's the real deal.
Thank you. So I think that we'll just kind of open it up, and I really want to encourage. Angie's going to have some announcements.
And before everybody breaks for food, I do have some stuff.
Okay, yeah, I just want to really reinforce that, you know, if you're all you kids sitting in this room, I know it just seems so important to be normal again, and to go out there and just go get your own place and go do this kind of thing. And I think that what we need to start really redefining what normal is. And I want you guys to know that you're the leaders in this thing. So those of you that are in the, in sobriety now and coming out of this opioid epidemic, you're leading a bunch of people that are going to follow you. And, I always say this, I say that this whole epidemic that our country's in is like the new Vietnam for people. It's really like you're all going through the war. And, you know, treatment is coming out to be normal and it's okay. And we really need to say that, you know what, people are going to go to treatment 8, 9 times. That's not a failure. I mean, imagine any of you in this room, did you change your life in your 20s? It's a very difficult time in our 20s to go ahead and take a look at us as the problem and change our lives. And it's very difficult to do that in our early 30s. A lot of us didn't work on changing who we are until we became 40 years old. Imagine having to deal with both an addiction, and then because of that, you have to then start taking a real early look at yourself as a big problem. And imagine the weight of that. And then imagine what you need. You need accountability for that. You need all those people holding you accountable. So I just really want to say that it's a new Vietnam that people are going through. And I think that as all of you who are youngsters in this epidemic can see, you've lost more friends than most people did to Vietnam. And your friends are dying around you. And you really, all of us need to really step up. And we need to hold each other accountable. When you see something off, you got to say something. If you see a train going off, you got to do your best to put that back on the tracks and say something to people. And then we need to slow down. It's not so great getting your own apartment and being alone. And you really got to get honest with yourself if you can even handle that. And have the humility to say, hey, listen, you know, that's not something for me right now. I'm okay. You know, so I think that we're really going to redefine what treatment and what everything is about in the next, you know, years over this thing. And I want you guys to all know that you're the leaders. And the people are going to need what you told them they need. Because you're going to figure it out. And it's going to be really important that you're able to give that lesson and tell people, hey, listen, you need this longer. You got to stay here. And I think as parents in this room, we got to quit urging and quit rushing and quit saying that it's got to get done so quick. We got to just slow everything down and say, listen, how many people do you know in the world that have beat heroin or meth? It's a pretty big accomplishment. And we need to say that's a big accomplishment for somebody to beat heroin. How many of your friends did it? How many people you know beat heroin? It's not something easily beat. It's something that needs a lot of, you can't do with one hand. You got to do with two. You got to get two hands around it. So I really think that we can kind of slow down now and just open this thing up to that and say, hey, listen, I got a kid and he's, you know, trying to beat heroin, and that's kind of all he can do right now. And I think that's a lot. If somebody is able to achieve that, we need to celebrate that. So once again, really it was beautiful to see everything about Nick and what a beautiful human being. An absolutely beautiful, beautiful human being. And you did an amazing job, and you should never forget that, really, because he was an incredible person. And one of structure and depth and a lot more than people ever let on, and you just scratched the surface with him. And once you see it and you start doing it, I don't know if beauty has walked into the big house in the form of anything other than Nick like that. That was beautiful. So thank you for that, and thank you for giving us Nick and giving us the time with him, because it changed all of us. So thank you.
I just have one thing, and that's the 5K. The 5K is this Saturday. We want you all there, and we need as many helpers as we can get down there at 7 a.m. Parents,